What's up? What's up? I am Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, single game $1 million winner, and we're here with video number 2 of the divisional round NFL playoffs weekend. I'm here to give you some NFL DFS picks and lineup advice for the single game showdown slate Saturday evening between the Ravens and the Titans. If you're not already, click that subscribe button below to get notified when all of our videos are released. You'll want to do that to make sure you know when our other 2 divisional round matchups are out and posted on YouTube. So let's jump into this, and we'll try to keep it short, but there's a lot to talk about for this Ravens and Titans matchup. And just so you know, for full in-depth thoughts and our final thoughts, go to occupyfantasy.com. You can read our daily plug for in-depth strategy on how to play this single game slate. The first thing we should talk about before we talk about either low risk or high risk strategy is the health of Mark Ingram. So let's bring him up here on DraftKings. He's listed as questionable, tentatively expected to play. However, most medical sources that you read hint that he's not going to be 100%. He had the calf injury back in week 16 of the regular season, non-contact injury. Looked pretty bad just looking at it. Took some time off, came back to practice the week before the playoffs, or actually the first week of the playoffs. Baltimore had to bye. He was practicing that week. And early this week felt some tightness back in that calf, which is never a good thing. He did return to a partial practice running on the side on Thursday. But I have been clear both in our podcast that you can listen to on Twitter. I do not think he'll be 100%. I think the best case scenario here is a split workload for Mark Ingram, 50% of the carries from the running back group. And I think that's a stance you need to take on this particular slate unless we get extremely optimistic reports overnight or before the game. Now, I am recording this video early Friday evening, so things can certainly change after the posting of this video. So just keep an eye out for that. All right, let's talk about low risk. Now, with the Lamar Jackson slate, it's always difficult. With the Derrick Henry slate, it's always difficult. Now we have the 2 combined into one. It makes it nearly impossible. So if you were to try to put Lamar Jackson in your captain MVP spot, he has the highest floor, highest ceiling of anybody on the slate. There's no denying that. If we tried to go our normal route of 2 running backs, 2 quarterbacks, so Henry, Tannehill, now first of all, you have 2,400 left per player. You can't do it. You have to get rid of one of these guys. There aren't really any viable plays in that sub 1K range on DraftKings for this slate. And we'll get back to that point for high risk. So what you'd have to do, and it seems risky, but if you do play low risk, and again, I think this is a very clear high risk slate, and would only recommend playing high risk unless you can find a head-to-heads or double-ups against players or fields without many people with experience badges. So the ideal here is probably going with the Ravens defense or Justin Tucker as your captain in low risk. And a couple reasons why. It can help you fit in 3 or 4 of the top guys. And 2, this game total has dropped. It opened at 49. It's down to 47 points. The spread has held steady at 10. Baltimore minus 10. So as a result, the Titans have one of the largest team total drops of the week. And it puts the Ravens in the top spot. They're one of the top-rated defenses overall for the 4-game slate in our model, and they rank really highly in the single-game slate for this particular matchup. So if you put the Ravens as your captain, let's get Lamar Jackson in flex. It's still really difficult, 2,600 per player. If you went with Gus Edwards, who is Mark Ingram's running mate, and who you think will get an increase in touches if Ingram is limited, that still leaves you 1,100. Nobody you can really play. So again, this looks like a very tough slate. Let's try Justin Tucker at captain just to see what this looks like. 3,800. It's more reasonable. But again, you'll have to fade one of these 4. And maybe Gus is that guy. Let's go Ravens defense. 2,200. We can go with a scrub player who might catch a couple of passes, and maybe that's optimal. But again, we would not be playing low risk. Now, FanDuel, of course, it's even tougher, as we've come to know over the course of this season, doing these videos, writing the plugs. Here, you absolutely 100% have to have Lamar Jackson in your low risk lineup as your captain. You can't go without it, based on the scoring, based on his floor and ceiling. Now, if you tried to go with Henry, Tannehill, over here, by the way, Mark Ingram is 14K. I think unless we get optimistic reports, pretty much unplayable. So, all right, Ingram, 14K. Gus Edwards here is just 7,500, makes it possible. So what you could do here, and I think it's actually one of the rare cases where it's better on FanDuel than is DraftKings for low risk. Lamar Captain, Henry Tannehill, Gus, and then one of the scrubs, Ravens receivers who may catch a touchdown. That's probably the best way to go. All right, now let's talk about the exciting part here. And we'll stick with FanDuel to start. High-risk contests, your 100-player leagues, your GPPs, your multipliers, your satellites. And I think it's a very clear difference between the two sites, FanDuel and DraftKings, what you need to do for this slate. So on FanDuel, given the half-point PPR scoring, given Lamar Jackson's touchdown projections, given his rushing potential, the best play is to go 100% Lamar MVP for FanDuel, high-risk contest. Now, if you make one lineup, if you make 10 lineups, if you make 150 lineups, your best bet is Lamar Jackson MVP. And I'll tell you why. So let's get Lamar in here. Now, he's going to be 50, 60, maybe even 70% MVP on this slate on FanDuel for GPPs, satellites, whatever. And the way you have to differentiate is leave a lot more salary left over. I'm talking $3,000 left over, $4,000 left over, maybe even $5,000 left over. And it's very possible on FanDuel because they've done us the favor of pricing a lot of pass catchers in the 5 to 7K range. Look, here's some guys. Miles Boykin, going to play 10 to 20% of the snaps. Could get a red zone target or two. He's minimum price, 5K. Willie Snead, one of their leading receivers, he's 5K for some reason. No idea why. The last Showdown slate he was on, he was like 7,500. Khalif Raymond is a Titans player, a deep threat. He'll get some run. He's back from concussion. He's a guy that will be 1% owned. We're going to keep scrolling here. Tajay Sharp. Adam Humphries is out once again. Tajay Sharp will be the wide receiver 3 for Tennessee. He's 5,500. Hayden Hurst will get 30 to 50% of the snaps as a tight end. Seth Roberts will play a ton. He actually leads the team in targets at the receiver position over the last 3 weeks of the season. Nick Boyle is going to play 70, 80% of the snaps. Anthony Ferkser, we saw catch a touchdown last week, going to be involved. Deion Lewis in a game script where Tennessee trails. Corey Davis, who's near underperforming receiver. Gus Edwards, who could get the majority of the touches out of the backfield if Ingram's limited. Like the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And you can play all sorts of combinations of these guys and leave a ton of money left over with an optimal captain or optimal MVP on FanDuel in Lamar Jackson. So really like this slate for high risk on FanDuel. Let's jump over to DraftKings. Now, it's going to be the exact opposite here. And while Lamar Jackson has been the optimal captain in high-risk contests on the past 3 Ravens primetime slates, I don't think that'll be the case. And here at Occupy Fantasy, we don't think that'll be the case either. The reason? It's the pricing differences that DraftKings has done with the lower tier guys. Those guys that we just talked about on FanDuel, they're not priced like they have been in recent slates. Last time out, Ravens-Jets, what was that, week 15? Both Seth Roberts, Miles Boykin were less than 1K. Look at them this time. Boykin is 2K. Seth Roberts, 2,600. Nick Boyle, 1,800. There are literally no Ravens scrub pass catchers that are actually going to play that are sub 1K. In fact, there are no Titans pass catchers that are sub 1K that are likely going to be in a lineup. So what that means is there's been 2 ways where Lamar has been the optimal captain. One, he goes off. Right? That's the prerequisite for all these lineups, and he's done that in all 3 primetime slates. But 2, you either have to have an abundance of mid-range guys, like when they played the Rams and they had Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Higbee was cheaper on that slate, but those types of guys in that 5 to 8K range. Not the case here. There's no guys, no offensive players in that 5 to 6K range that you're really going to use to make an optimal captain out of Lamar Jackson. If you go with all guys in this range. Gus Edwards, Justin Tucker, Corey Davis, Willie Snead, Ravens defense. That means Henry, Tannehill, Ingram, Andrews, A.J. Brown, you can only use one of those guys. And it seems very unlikely that's going to be the case. The other way, of course, was the super cheap guys. Like I said, the last time out, Seth Roberts caught a touchdown, Miles Boykin caught a touchdown versus the Jets, and they were in the optimal lineup. You could fit two guys under 1K, have Lamar Jackson and two of these higher priced guys, and have the optimal lineup. That's not going to be the case this week. DraftKings was smart with their pricing. Definitely appreciate that. It makes this slate more challenging. However, I think it's a huge edge and big leverage for us on DraftKings. And Lamar, despite this, the public, most people playing this contest are still going to have Lamar Jackson in 90% of their lineups. That's fine. We suggest still going 90 to 100% of him in your flex spot. Just lock him in there. Get him in. But then rotate your captains. Even though the prices have changed for other players, we're going to see Lamar Jackson 30 to 50% captain in high-risk contests, the big GPP, 30 to 50%. So major leverage. You can just play a handful of other guys and get have an advantage on the field. You can play all these guys here. Henry, Tannehill. Still wouldn't recommend Ingram because of the cap. Mark Andrews, A.J. Brown, Marquise Brown, who we haven't talked about yet, but was healthy, practicing in full this week, all three practices this week for the first time in a while. Love his upside on this slate. Corey Davis, we talked about on FanDuel, being an underperformer. Gus Edwards could get a lot of touches. Like, you can play a bunch of these guys and just have Lamar in flex and automatically have a huge edge on the field. Now, understand, the risk is Lamar goes off for 60 points and the perfect lineup is some combination of these mid-tier guys that are very random. It's possible. However, more people are going to do that than it's actually likely. So we recommend going with this approach on DraftKings. So two very different approaches on both sites, but the pricing dictates what we need to do. So it's something you need to think about when you're creating your showdown lineups, not just for this slate, but for every slate. Take a look at the pricing of every player, not just the top-end guys. All right, for more analysis, go to occupyfantasy.com. Check out our daily plug and check out our Occupy model, which ranks every player on the slate for both FanDuel and DraftKings. Be sure to click that subscribe button below to get notified when our other divisional round videos and future videos come out. Give this video a thumbs up if you like what we talked about. We appreciate that. If you have any questions about this slate or comments, hop in the comments below. And if we need something answered, we'll get back to you before the slate starts on Saturday evening. All right, for Brian Jester, Occupy Fantasy, appreciate you listening. Good luck, and we'll talk to you soon.